Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here today because honestly, we are looking at one of the most fascinating trajectories in all of human history. We're going to explore the incredible evolution of two ancient Egyptian deities, Amun and Amunet. And what starts as this barely perceptible whisper in the dark ends up echoing across global empires, and, spoiler alert, it actually ends up shaping the vocabulary of modern science. It's the ultimate cosmic glow-up. I mean, just think about that for a second. How exactly does an obscure, literally invisible wind god from the remote, ancient past end up being declared the literal father of Alexander the Great? And, even wilder, how does that same deity manage to permanently embed his name into the chemistry, biology, and anatomy textbooks sitting on our desks today? Well, that is the massive curiosity gap we are going to close in this explainer. Part 1. The hidden primordial origins. So, the crucial point to understand right out of the gate is that Amun and Amunet were not originally these superstar deities shooting across the sky in golden chariots. Far from it, actually. Their very names translate to the hidden one, or invisible. They started out as a male-female pairing in this ancient divine grouping called the Ogdoad. They represented these really obscure, abstract concepts, the invisible power of the wind, the quiet mysteriousness of the dark, and that deep, endless inactivity before creation even began. And their roots go incredibly deep into the bedrock of Egyptian mythology. To give you an idea, we can look at the Old Kingdom pyramid texts, which are some of the oldest religious writings in the world. They declare, "O Amun and Amunet, you pair of the gods who joined the gods with their shadow." It's so poetic, right? It perfectly captures their quiet, foundational beginnings. They were the hidden shadows existing behind literally everything else. Moving on to Section 2, Rise of Amun-Ra. Let's move to the timeline and see how this builds, because it's a crazy ascent. During the 11th dynasty, Amun gets a major promotion. He becomes the patron deity of a city called Thebes. But the real, absolute turning point happens later, in the 16th century BC. A pharaoh named Ahmes I successfully kicks out foreign rulers, known as the Hyksos, from Egypt. And because the victorious royal family was from Thebes, their patron god, Amun, basically gets all the credit. It's a massive right place, right time moment. He has suddenly fused with the supreme sun god, Ra, and boom, he becomes the ultimate national deity, Amun-Ra, king of the gods. Now, as Amun leveled up to this supreme status, his divine family dynamic shifted. A goddess named Mut largely took over as his partner on the national stage, and together with their son Khonsu, they formed the famous Theban triad. But listen, Amunet didn't just disappear. She retained massive, highly specialized local power back in Thebes. She was absolutely vital for protecting the king, playing a preeminent role in royal coronations and the Sed festivals, which were these grand jubilees celebrating a pharaoh's reign. She remained the hidden power behind the throne. But here's the absolute best part. The real irony of the whole thing. Despite Amun-Ra becoming this incredibly wealthy, untouchable imperial god, he was deeply beloved by everyday, ordinary people. We found these votive stelae left by humble artisans at Deir el-Medina, and they revealed that the people saw him as this forgiving champion of the poor. They called him a god who gives breath to him who is wretched. So he was this omnipotent creator, sure, but he was also viewed as intensely personal and merciful. And as his cult kept growing, Amun just kind of absorbed the portfolios of other gods. Like, he merged with an ancient fertility deity to become Amun-Min. He gained the title Kamutef, which translates literally to bowl of his mother, representing ultimate virility and life-giving power. He was also really closely associated with the woolly ram, a major symbol of masculine power. At this stage in the game, Amun is quite literally everything, everywhere, all at once. But history is never just a straight line up, is it? Just when Amun-Ra reaches the absolute peak of ancient supreme power, everything drops. We have to ask, what happens when a pharaoh essentially tries to cancel the king of the gods? Which brings us to Section 3, the Aten heresy. This is basically an ancient political thriller. The conflict pits the traditional, deeply entrenched wealth and power of Amun-Ra against a radical new vision, and pharaoh Akhenaten. He decides he's only going to worship the Aten, which is the literal sun disk in the sky. He aggressively constructs a monolithrist religion in direct head-to-head competition with Amun. He abruptly moves the capital completely away from Thebes, strips the Amun priesthood of all their wealth and influence, and literally sends workers with chisels to hack Amun's name off monuments. It's wild. And look at how swiftly this whole drama plays out. First, Akhenaten tries to completely erase Amun. Following his death, there's a brief, highly confusing period of succession, but then a young boy takes the throne, names himself Tutankhamun, and completely restores Amun-Ra in all the old ways. Finally, later pharaohs like Horemheb come in and literally strike Akhenaten from the official records entirely. Amun's restoration was so absolute, so complete, it was as if the Aten heresy had never even happened.
And talk about a comeback. By the Third Intermediate Period, the high priests of Amun at Thebes had amassed so much restored power that they were effectively ruling the country. To put that in perspective, they owned an astonishing 2/3 of all temple lands in Egypt. Oh, and 90% of her ships. The priests weren't just religious figures anymore. They were essentially functioning as pharaohs themselves.
All right, moving to Section 4, Expansion Beyond Egypt. So the cult of Amun became a massive global export. Down to the south, in Nubia and Sudan, Amun was officially adopted as the supreme national deity of the Kushite Empire, where they pronounced his name Amani, and his presence there was absolute. At the sacred mountain of Jabal Barkal, the priests of Amun literally ran the government via an oracle. The god himself, supposedly speaking through this oracle, chose the rulers and directed their military campaigns. And this brilliantly illustrates how the classical world operated. When the Greeks and Romans encountered Amun, they didn't try to replace him or wipe him out. They just recognized him as their own supreme deity. The Greeks seamlessly blended him into Zeus Amun, and the Romans morphed him into Jupiter Amun. He wasn't some foreign god to them. He was just another face of the king of the gods. This cultural fusion hits its absolute peak with one of history's most famous figures. When Alexander the Great conquered Egypt without a fight, he traveled deep into the Libyan desert to the remote oracle at the Siwa oasis. There, the oracle officially pronounced Alexander the literal son of Amun, and Alexander took this very seriously. For centuries after his death, currency depicted Alexander adorned with the curved horns of Amun as the ultimate, unquestionable symbol of his divine right to rule. Which brings us right back to you today in Section 5, An Enduring Modern Legacy. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that Amun is literally hiding in plain sight in our everyday scientific vocabulary. Because the Romans mined a salty substance near the temple of Jupiter Amun, they called it salt of Amun, which directly gives us the modern chemical word ammonia. You know those spiral-shelled ancient fossils? Well, they looked like the ram horns of Amun, so early scientists named them ammonites. Even the dark and light bands in the hippocampus region of your very own brain are scientifically called the cornu ammonis, literally translating to Amun's horns. No way, right? It's literally in our heads. From the quiet, invisible primordial waters before creation all the way to the structural anatomy of the human brain, Amun and Amunet truly pulled off the ultimate cosmic glow-up. And it leaves us with this incredibly profound thought. What other invisible forces from the ancient world are still hiding in plain sight, subtly shaping our reality today? Thank you so much for exploring this with me, and definitely keep questioning what's right in front of you. Catch you next time.